Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. You're watching iAllegedly. And I've got a good one for you today because I've got the CEO of Patriot Gold here, Jack Haney. And man, we could talk for 3 hours, but we're going to discuss business. We're going to discuss what's going on with the economy, mortgages, gold, a little bit of everything. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And today's video sponsored by Patriot Gold, so it's awesome. But Jack, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, well, Dan, thank you for having me. I mean, this is fantastic. I love this. It's a spectacular setting.
Where are we? We're at the beautiful Montage, and I'm telling you, man, this is the greatest spot in Southern California. That I think more people should take advantage of this. But man, oh man, what a beautiful day after that week and a half of rain that we've had. It's nice to be out here like this.
I've spent some time here before, and my wife would say to me, why do we ever go to Hawaii?
Yeah, exactly.
The Laguna's right down the road.
My girlfriend would say the same thing. So, you know, we're talking about news and we're talking about everything that's going on right now. And one thing that we have seen that's been a dramatic shift over the course of the last year is interest rates go up. And everything is more expensive right now. Credit cards, car loans, and more importantly, mortgages right now have shot up. And right now they're talking about people need to get ready for a 7% mortgage. You know, how do you feel about that?
Well, the Feds, there was 4 interest rate hikes of 3/4 basis points. And those are the largest rate hikes in 40 years.
Yeah.
And there was 4 of those consecutively. So the 30-year fixed went from a 2.75 or 3% to as high as 7%, which absolutely has destroyed the real estate market, destroyed also the mortgage industry.
That, and the other thing is people hear those numbers and they think everybody's getting those loans. That's not the case, Jack. If people have just okay credit, interest rates higher. If they're self-employed, they're going to pay more money. And that's what people really don't want to put, you know, pen to paper to and sit down and realize that they're going to pay more money if their credit's not so hot. And we're experiencing that all over the place right now.
Well, there's also the realization that inflation is winning in a knockout, because despite these rate hikes, you still see the prices at the grocery store. The only reason the gas prices are lower is because this administration has now drained over 40% of our strategic oil reserves.
Those were for emergencies. Those were for times of war. Those were for major, catastrophes, whether you had earthquakes or you had something like that. And now we're just using it to hopefully, they did that last time around the election to get reelected and to bring gas prices down. But I just read a story where we're going to see $4 a gallon gas across the country, which means it'll be $7 here in California. Yeah. But
well, this administration basically said the midterms was an emergency. So of course, ahead of the midterms, what does Biden do? But he taps into our strategic oil reserves, brings down the gas prices. But you still look at, whether it be groceries, whether it be travel, whether it be hotel stays. I mean, the Montage, I can only imagine what a night at the Montage may cost.
Everything with inflation has gone up. And when you think about that, and travel is a great thing. The Hilton company just stepped forward and they said hey, we're going to have a lot of amenities reopen this year. Great, restaurants are going to be reopened at the hotels, but you're going to pay more than ever when you go and travel this year. So inflation is going to be a huge problem when it comes to, entertainment. And I consider travel entertainment too, around the country.
You look at airline tickets now, and the hotels, they have the Wi-Fi fee, the parking fee, they have the resort fee. You're paying more for everything. And the reality is what it is a significant devaluing and debasing of the dollar, of the US dollar. The dollar lost 12% of its purchasing power back in 2020. Now, gold goes up 1.9% for every 1% the dollar pulls back. Silver goes up 3.3% for every 1% the dollar loses purchasing power.
That's awesome.
That's why gold was up 24% in 2020. And silver was up 38.8% in 2020.
So you're Mr. Gold, and I always, rely on you for this advice when it comes to gold. But let's talk about this. When we use terms like safe haven investments and how people could protect themselves, because let's face it, cryptocurrency is not the safe haven that everybody's talked about. And it's been more of a joke lately. And the fact that all these exchanges keep collapsing and we've seen problems after problems after problems, people need to get themselves into a safe haven. And, with everything that's going on, I don't have faith in the leadership right now to clean the mess up right now. So I think we need to protect ourselves now more than ever, with our investments and, the roulette wheel of the stock market. I just think it's about to bust. I really do.
Well, there's a few things that you brought up that are exceptionally important. You look at FTX, you look at Gemini, you look at these cryptocurrency companies that are going bankrupt. And cryptocurrency, really, you own no more than a digital code, right? So as far as it being decentralized, when you have the Vanguards, Fidelities, and you have the JP Morgans opening cryptocurrency trading desks, you can be sure the government's involved. But the biggest concern now is this administration. The Trump Labor Department enacted the Employee Retirement Income Security Act that required brokerage firms and big banks to be fiduciaries with 401ks and IRAs.
Explain one thing. I know what a fiduciary is. Just say what a fiduciary is real quick.
A fiduciary is where they have the responsibility to the account holder, that the investments that they put the account holder's retirement funds into are in the best interest of the client, not the JP Morgan, not the BlackRock.
Yeah.
Yes. And what happened was, with this administration and the Democrats losing the House and losing Congress, they could no longer get their liberal progressive policies passed through Congress. So the Biden administration has now overturned Trump's Labor Department policy, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, and replaced it with ESG 401ks, where BlackRock can charge a higher fee, and ESG stands for environmental, governance, and social. So what that is, the ESG 401ks, is this administration and the Democrats' way of funding their liberal progressive policies without the approval of the House or Congress. So whether it be renewable energy, whether it be investments into equanimity and diversity, and it's no longer a fiduciary. It's no longer about whether or not it's in the best interest of the individual.
The environment, society. It's ridiculous. Actually, I think it's
theft.
It's crazy because slow and steady wins the race. As far as investing, and people want to get rich overnight, but you also don't want to put your money at risk in things that could just these different environmental and different policies right now that have not been proven that you can say that they're going to be part of our lifestyle forever, but I beg to differ with you. Here in California,
there's no regulation. So you look at the Obama administration and the investment that they made in that solar company that just went out of business because there is no oversight into any of these solar programs as far as the EV credits. So there's no regulation, there's no oversight. So what's happening now is, unless you instruct the plan administrator to not put your 401k and IRA into ESG 401k funds, it is now the default of where these 401ks are invested. So most employees, they think, my job offers a 401k, this is fantastic, but they rarely speak to the administrator and they rarely know where their funds are being invested.
Exactly.
And now they're being invested in these liberal progressive policies that have zero oversight, zero accountability, and zero regulation.
Yeah, California did something ridiculous. They have a program for low-income people to get electric cars right now. And the problem with it is that you get a $50,000 vehicle that someone that has very little income can get up to $27,000 credit. How do you charge the car? How do you insure the car? How do you maintain the car when you don't have a job? It makes zero sense to get people into these vehicles.
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying everything to just get these electric cars on the road. And this administration, the very first day in office, the first thing it did was cancel the Keystone pipeline permit. So the very first thing this administration did was take away our energy independence. And what a lot of people don't realize is that is the stronghold that Russia, Saudi Arabia have over us, because we're no longer energy independent. The previous administration was drilling and opening pipelines, and energy independence is the key for
Absolutely.
America.
Absolutely.
Energy independence.
You know, it's funny. Ford has their electric F-150 Lightning, they call it, and they've had problems. I've had subscribers write me and say, hey, this thing won't tow our boat. We go up a hill and the battery drops 50%. We freak out because we got to go charge it at different places to get to the lake. They just announced that they're finally going to start production again on like March 13th to open that up. And again, these trucks are incredibly expensive. They're $100,000 vehicles to purchase, and that's not for everybody. And it's crazy that we're being force-fed that. And, you know,
not only how expensive the vehicle is, but what about the energy that is used in building these vehicles, as well as these recharging stations? And I mean, the thing is, it is so contradictory. And really, it's just more about government control. They can control how far you can drive your vehicle. You have to recharge it. They can monitor everything that you do, where the vehicle is going.
I just covered this yesterday. You're going to see Ford has a patent where if you don't make your payment, they can repossess the car. Press a button, it would drive itself back to the lot.
That's it.
And also, but think about this. If you don't make your payment, we're going to shut off the power windows. We're going to shut off the heat. And again, not everybody lives in this weather. So if you're in Michigan right now and you got in your car and you had no heat, you wouldn't want to drive the car. So,
well, and that leads us to, Biden bucks and digital tokens.
Yeah.
Which, we have Citigroup, Wells, and MasterCard right now, along with the New York Fed, testing out a pilot program of Biden bucks, digital tokens. And eventually, I think sooner rather than later, the history of money as we know it is going to change. Because what the government will be able to do is you'll have a digital wallet filled with digital tokens. And if they don't agree with what you're spending your money on, your digital tokens, if it's fossil fuels, if you go to buy a gun,
if you go, if you like a certain sports team, or I mean, it could get crazy.
Gambling, they could
Anything.
just turn off your digital wallet, and all of a sudden, that's it. You're insolvent. You no longer have your digital tokens.
What if you had somebody that was really rich, like Elon Musk? He shouldn't be that rich. We want to take away his digital tokens too.
Oh, it's the easiest way. And that leads us to bail-ins.
Yeah.
Because of Dodd-Frank, bail-ins are now what are going to be used.
We've talked about this before,
to bail out banks.
Now,
they said they're no longer bailing out the big banks.
Right. Last time we had, everybody thinks of 2008. We had that economic downturn. The banks then were bailed out by the government, and you've seen all the movies. They're fantastic. But now one thing Dodd-Frank did was made it so that they would, you'd get bail-in like Cyprus, where you would basically you're now a shareholder of the bank. And I've seen figures of if somebody has $5,000 in a bank, they could lose that and you get shares. What are those shares worth? If you're giving shares in Bank of America or XYZ Bank, what's that going to be worth if they get bailed in?
Well, and a lot of people were saying, well, that's Cyprus, but Cyprus is part of the EU, which is the third largest economy in the world. So if they can do it in Cyprus, they certainly can do it here in America. Now, not only would the bail-in effectively be about a 10% haircut on whatever you may have in savings, but then, yes, as far as overcoming that FDIC $250,000 insured, which, by the way, it was only $100,000 back in 2008.
Right. Oh,
they increased it to $250,000.
And it's funny. We've done a lot of videos on this, Jack, where I've shown the calculators, because people have said, oh, all my money's protected in the bank. And again, I promise you I'll pay you back. That's what this is. And I've shown the calculators how you can have different accounts inside the same institution and they're not protected. So there's a lot of potential problems with that.
What happens is your $250,000 converts into equity within the financial institution, and you are no longer insured as a depositor because you are now a shareholder. And that's the way that so they raised the 100 to 250,000 to really increase the confidence in Americans to put their money back in the banks that were too big to fail. And you know, the funny thing about it is they were too big to fail back in '08. Well, JP Morgan took over Chase, Bank of America took over Merrill Lynch,
Right.
Wells Fargo took over Wachovia. So they're only bigger now than they've ever been. So the threat of bail-ins is real. It's a real concern.
I always tell people to have multiple accounts and have, you know, your money spread out. Make sure you can get it. Make sure you have cash on hand. And, you know, one thing we were talking about today was having gold on hand too, and having physical gold. There's serious value in this. And that, you know, Jack just said something that was great, which I'm going to have you elaborate on. But gold is money. Gold has been money since the dawn of time. And you can convert it to basically any currency you'd like. So if you could expand on that.
For 5,000 years, since biblical times, gold is a storage of wealth. Physical gold and silver is real money. There's no counterparty risk. There's no political affiliations, and it can be converted into any other currency globally. So, Dan, you could have $100,000 in gold eagles or Cougarans or maples, and you could go to Europe and you can convert it into euro. So you could go to Japan and convert it into yen. You can go to China and convert it into yuan. Now, what I tell a lot of our clients is, what are central banks doing? Central bank gold purchases are the largest they've ever been in history in 2022. So last year, central banks around the world purchased more physical gold and silver than at any other time in history. Now, central banks are the ones responsible for printing money.
Absolutely.
So why is it that they're purchasing stratospheric amounts of physical gold and silver?
Protecting themselves for what's coming. So,
well, Russia was able to invade Ukraine because of their gold holdings. Now, why is China stockpiling gold and has its eyes on Taiwan? Mm-hmm. Because what happened is this administration, again, a very strategic misstep by weaponizing the US dollar with the sanctions they imposed on Russia, and then freezing all the oligarchs billions of dollars and kicking them out of the SWIFT banking system. Now Saudi Arabia, China, and Russia said, oh, do we really want the US to be able to interfere if we have a conflict with one of our neighbors where they can just freeze our assets, kick us out of the SWIFT banking system? So there is a global trend right now. It's a de-dollarization trend, global. And at the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Xi of China met with Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is going to start accepting yuan for oil purchases by China. And that spells the dusk of the petrodollar.
absolutely.
And the dawn of the petro yuan.
You know, everything, all these commodities have always been priced in dollars. And it's just a matter of time until that's not going to happen. You know, you're going to see major changes with this. And it's going to dramatically affect the value of the dollar. It's going to affect our country. It's going to affect everything going
We're
forward.
on the cusp of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and again, we talk about these historic major moves, but what can people do right now? What do you recommend they do?
Well, right now what they're doing is they're purchasing physical gold and silver. We saw gold was over $2,000 an ounce when Russia invaded Ukraine. And let me ask, has the war in Ukraine gotten any better? Has anything gotten any better? No. It's only escalated. There's only been an increase in the spend. There's only been an increase in the amount of money that we have given Ukraine, right? So gold right now at $18.50 is the single best buying opportunity that we have seen since this administration took office, and silver at 21 when you talk about the electrification of vehicles, when you talk about the push for renewable energy, when you talk about ESG 401ks, this opportunity right now in silver, we're running into a 300 million ounce a year supply deficit.
Wow, look at the helicopter.
Wow, that's close.
Police helicopter.
Right over the beautiful blue ocean here in Laguna.
Yeah, no kidding.
Absolutely spectacular. It's gorgeous. Imagine that. Imagine that job.
That'd be cool.
I mean, imagine flying a helicopter just over the beaches.
Yeah.
So there's never been a more important time to purchase physical gold and silver. Nouriel Roubini said there
Dr.
are
Doom, go ahead.
Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
But he said that there are 9 mega threats.
Yes.
And even Bloomberg came out last week and said we are right in the process right now of a global macroeconomic shift, and gold is the shining star.
Yeah.
And Nouriel Roubini said you need to own physical gold and silver to protect yourself from these 9 mega threats.
Yeah.
And then, about a year ago, we talked about black swan events. COVID, of course, was a black swan event, right?
9/11.
9/11. Russia invading Ukraine.
You could have an earthquake. You could have
like in Turkey.
Yeah, you could have, absolutely. And it's funny, growing up here and living here in California, we have to deal with this all the time. And everybody with any common sense is prepared for an earthquake. But it could be devastating to the economy. It could be devastating to, so many businesses and people around us too.
Well, they have hurricanes coming up the coast of the East Coast. You have tornadoes through the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
You have flooding down in Louisiana and in Florida. So the thing about it is, when these global disasters take place, like what happened with Puerto Rico and up the coast of the eastern seaboard, or Katrina, the tens of billions of dollars that's spent, where does everyone think all this money is coming from? The government just continues. I love the new term, like with this, infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion. People have no idea how much money $1 trillion
because we just say
is.
These numbers. You say $1 million and it's thrown out like it's nothing. And Grant Cardone the other day said, if you're a single-digit millionaire, you're a peasant.
Yeah.
You're in real trouble.
You're middle class.
Yeah, you're
lower middle class. Single-digit millionaires are lower middle class.
It's funny. And then you look at, you say $1 billion and we don't think about it. And Elon Musk is now wasn't the richest man in the world. Now he's again, the richest man in the world. And it's funny, you say $1 trillion now, and it's just numbers thrown out there. And it is a tremendous amount of money that people don't realize.
And we're $31+ trillion in debt. In debt. So the more that they raise rates, the higher the interest payment on that debt. And what's going to happen is if the Feds raise rates over 5.5%,
mm-hmm.
the interest payment on our debt is going to be larger than our defense budget.
Yes.
So then what happens with China building up their
defense? Think about that, guys. More money than we spend on our defense. And we've got to have a strong military. We have to have that. And to pay interest on a loan, we're bankrupt at that point. We really are when you think about this.
We're bankrupt now.
Yeah.
We're bankrupt. We're $31+ trillion in debt. We're bankrupt. And the reality is that's why they're looking into these, digital tokens, and the central banks are looking into digital currencies because they could significantly devalue and debase digital currencies basically with a click of a mouse.
Absolutely. And it's scary to think about when you think of it that way. It really is.
Yeah. And also monitor and oversee every single transaction that you make, every step that you take. It's buying physical gold and silver is the only protection and is the only asset that represents pulling your money from the financial system and taking retirement matters and investment matters into your own hands. The only one.
We've talked about Patriot Gold for months, guys, and I've wanted to have Jack on since I got involved with the company. And you guys have to, look at your retirement, look at taking matters into your own hands. Do it now before it's too late. Look at Patriot Gold. The link will be below also on this. But guys, things are not getting rosier. Things are not getting better. You're going to see the real estate market take a complete downturn worse than it is. And think about this. Somebody wrote me something that makes so much sense the other day. Dan, houses went up, 50%. And just because they dropped 25% doesn't mean that it's a crash yet. And it's not. I think you're going to see pre-2019 levels for housing prices again. I think you're going to see things absolutely go down with all the massive layoffs that we've had right now. With everything. That's just the beginning of the problem.
Well, you look at the layoffs in tech, you look at the layoffs in finance, and you look at the across the board, the mass layoffs, and then you couple that with interest rates now as high as 7% on a 30-year. So the homes are more than twice as expensive for home ownership. The cost of ownership is more than twice as expensive. So we're going to see real estate prices probably correct another 25 to 30%. Morgan Stanley forecasts that the S&P is going to slide another 26%. Things are going to get far worse before they get better. I mean, Jamie Dimon forecasted an economic hurricane coming.
Yes.
And it has not hit yet.
Right. And let's just look at the big banks. You've got Bank of America, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs have all said to look at physical metals. You've got all these other billionaires that have come out and said to look at physical metals, and gold being the best thing right now. So,
you have Bloomberg, you have Jefferies Group, you have Stan Druckenmiller, you have Nouriel Roubini, across the board, Bailins forecasting $3,000 an ounce gold. There's not a single economist right now that doesn't forecast gold to surpass $2,000 an ounce in 2023 and to surpass all-time highs going into 2024.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that your viewers should do is contact the Patriot Gold Group regarding our 2023 recession protection, no fee for life IRA.
Which is incredible.
Where you don't pay the administrative fee or the rollover fee, you don't pay for the storage, the insurance, or the custodial fee on your IRA of your physical gold and silver.
You guys call them at 888-330-1431 and get a free investor guide. They will answer all your questions. So many of my subscribers have done this. And I just think that when you look at what's happening, you've got to take matters into your own hands. You've got to look at physical metals, and the best place, best in class service, #1 rated year after year has been Patriot Gold, guys. But call them 888-330-1431. The link will be below also. But let's end it with with the economy right now. I really think that people are kidding themselves right now, Jack. I think that retail is in dire straits right now. You're seeing shopping malls go out of business at a record pace. Westminster Mall here in Orange County, they just said they want to level the mall and put housing there. I mean, it's just getting crazy. There's no retail out there that is doing well right now.
Well, Walmart just released their numbers. Best Buy is, not Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond. I mean, is on the brink of just going out of business.
Bankruptcy. And Tuesday morning announced this week, and then
Tuesday.
Panera Bread, the restaurant chain, just announced their bankruptcy.
This is just the beginning of it.
Yeah,
this is the beginning.
And everybody thinks that 2008 was a long weekend that was really bad, and it took years to get out of that, guys. But also this time, when you mix the higher interest rates with the layoffs, you're going to see catastrophic results, I think.
Well, let's look at 2008 and the subprime mortgage crises, and banks being too big to fail. What structural problems did they fix back in 2008? Nothing. They quadrupled our money supply, and they suppressed interest rates to 0 for 12 years. So eventually, all of that is going to catch up to you, and it's catching up to us now. And they're so far behind the 8 ball. The feds are desperately trying to raise rates to slow down the spending. We have mass layoffs. You're crushing the real estate industry. You're crushing the mortguage industry.
Small business in general, too.
Small business after a 2-year pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's horrible. It's horrible. Guys, well, thank you, Jack. Okay,
thank you.
This has been awesome, and I'm sure we could do another 2 hours of this.
Next time, can we have a nicer setting?
Yeah, exactly. I'll work on that for you.
Yeah.
Okay. After 7 days of rain. Please don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take a look at Patriot Gold. The link is below, and I will give you the 800 number again, 888-330-1431. And again, a great group, a great company, and I truly believe in you guys. And it's great to know you, and it's great to talk business with you. And we'll do this again real soon.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been great.
All right.
I've enjoyed
Awesome.
it. Thank you.